welcome back, everybody. Happy Friday. We are on episode 8 of Fintech Fridays, and super excited to have Stephen Cooley join us. He's been doing the circuit, so you've probably seen him on some different podcasts and shows around our industry. Stephen, welcome.
Hey, how you doing, man? Good to be here. Glad to hang out. Sounds like we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, it's you and I. Just so everyone knows, full disclosure, we've done no prep for this episode, and this is the way I like it. Call it raw and unfiltered.
That's right.
So what I've been doing is kicking off all these shows, asking my guests to share with the audience what the term fintech means to you, and specifically in your, not only in your business life, but even as a consumer potentially. And I think this will be really interesting just to hear kind of how you think about this in light of some of the conversations I know you've been having in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've asked at an interesting time. So there's, because of some of the things that we're experiencing and the way that we're trying to grow, even to like we're thinking about raising some capital to kind of solidify some of the growth efforts that we're making. And we're having actually this conversation in an interesting way. Like I've even hired like a consultant to help me define exactly what we are. And initially I was saying that I'm fintech, which I believe fintech is financial technology, which usually involves the transaction of or the technology that is being used to help facilitate, manage, or involve some sort of transaction. Like Venmo is clearly a fintech app, right? Robinhood is clearly a fintech app. So I mean that what I've come to find, and so like mortgage is the bit of this, I want to say even stepchild to the financial industry a little bit almost. I mean, and so like the technology that is. The technology sectors, which is kind of what I'm doing, is helping technology companies market themselves. They're not necessarily considering it fintech, and so the next question is what are we? So, but I think that it's definitely an interesting discussion, and it could be probably had for the whole 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I am, to be honest with you, but I'm pretty sure I know what fintech is.
Yeah, no, I love it, and you stuck on something there that is I almost had like a little aha moment when you talked about mortgage being the stepchild in finance or fintech. My initial reaction was, why would that be? And I think my thought on that is because our business and at its core, mortgage from a consumer perspective happens rarely and infrequently in the grand scheme of things. And so I think when many of us think of fintech, we do think of things like Venmo and Robinhood and maybe bill pay and some other stuff that you do as a consumer fairly frequently and fairly often as it relates to a transaction. And mortgage, because it's just a rare, infrequent activity, probably unfairly falls into that category.
Well, it's odd that, I don't know how many transactions there were last year. I don't know if you do, but I know that it's over 10 million a year.
Yeah.
And I would imagine last year maybe even doubled due to the refi boom, right? So, but it's weird that that's not enough transactions to warrant an excitement in the traditional private equity VC kind of world. It's very, very tough to help them understand that. But that's kind of the challenge that the software company or mortgage-based fintech or mortgage technology company has to do is they have to tell a story to help potential investors or whatnot understand how you're going to be a part of as many of those transactions as possible. And so like it's an interesting it's an interesting challenge that you're facing if you're raising capital.
Well, I think we're gonna call this session is gonna be for you. We're gonna leave this session figuring out what the heck you are and how best to characterize. So let's start there by having you share, what you're up to, this platform you've built, and kind of what's going on there.
Absolutely. So yeah, Mortgage Advisor Tools has been live since the March 16th. I think we're averaging about 100 unique visitors a day, which is just silly, honestly, for a new website. And but we're doing it through networking on Facebook, some paid media, and then opportunities like this. Obviously bring a lot of attention to the site. But it's 20 categories. It's about 210 companies pre-listed, and software companies are paying to list every week. And we're really, really grateful to have really a real awesome influx right out of the gate. But what the objective is to bring attention to the technology and software companies in the mortgage space, and really to help mortgage lenders find equivalent resources that are out there in the market. The market's really interesting, and it is. I have a client bank right now that it's kind of fit the mold perfect. And the example is like when I started the engagement, they hand me an online reputation bid, and they're like, "We want to do this," and I'm like, "Well, have you looked at anything else?" And they're like, "We wouldn't know where to even begin to start that exploration." And I'm like, "Well, here, check out my website." It's kind of weird. And we have about 10, 12 online rep companies listed, and they're like, "Man." And so I put together like 6 bids for them, and they're like, "Wow, and this is how they all culturally impact and are different, and what do you want, price points and everything." And I was able to give them a full look at, the opportunities that they had. And so I've gotten several texts and emails, and I don't know, we're probably going to, exploit all of it. Just like, "Hey, your website's really, we just started a new gig at this bank, and your website's really helped us find resources." So it's been really, really, really fun. And what we're trying to do ultimately is, the mission really is, if you're shopping for a mortgage software solution, you have to come through Mortgage Advisor Tools to make that decision. That's just going to be, it's going to be the standard approach moving forward. And we're working actually on a mortgage or a bank product, and really ultimately you sit around and you're like, how can I increase my value proposition to everybody? And so me and my team, that's just constantly what we're doing, and we think we have a really, really cool way to do that. That is kind of halfway built. It's neat when you've already done some of the groundwork, and you're like, "Oh, we could actually productize that." You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where we're at. And no, it's been amazing. And yeah, we got a really dope commercial on YouTube. It's got like 7,000 views probably at this point. You've probably seen it on Mortflix, which is pretty incredible. Also, Mortflix, check that out on Mortgage Advisor Tools as well. So it's been just an incredible journey so far. We're having a blast.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, your commercial's got a pretty cool car in it, right?
That's right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
Now we want to come. We want to come swinging with content. We just talked about this. How do you grow? This platform, and we're in the same boat. It's like the way that I get folks to show up to the site is through content. Is through literally taking it. We take every dollar and invest it into video content, into written, into whatnot. I have I have about a half dozen blogs I'm finishing right now, and we have about 3 shoots coming up, because we're basically doing that for every category, really trying to, kind of do a Dollar Shave Clubby style, just peppy, super funny. What's great about software marketing, man, is I don't have to worry about compliance. I can swear, I can, innuendo, I can do whatever I want. So we're taking full advantage of that. I'm getting pulled back a little. Actually, what's pulling me back is the how strict social media advertising is getting. It's actually is cutting my legs out from under. Like the video we had a sword in it. And LinkedIn will not let me run a paid ad for it because there's a sword in it. They said I have a weapon in my video.
Interesting.
The guy's holding the sword for 4 seconds, freaking out, losing their minds. See, we're already disrupting the place.
So we started off talking about mortgage as this infrequently used transaction from a consumer. But what's interesting is I think about your platform and the use case, despite the relative infrequency that a consumer may get a mortgage, there's a ton of new entrants from a vendor tech perspective coming into mortgage.
Yes.
And it's even in the last, even through pandemic, there's been dozens, probably if not hundreds, of new companies that have come into the space. And I think when I think about what you've built there, it's not like we've got this. Now, don't get me wrong. There's clearly a stale bunch of providers that are in our industry, but there's as many newer entrants into the industry that are doing some really cool things. And I think it's very relevant that you have a platform that's kind of cutting edge and a little bit avant-garde in helping them tell their story, but more importantly, telling banks and other lending institutions what's up in this space. So I'm guessing you're seeing a lot of the same things in terms of the new entrants.
Well, the new entrants don't know what to do. I mean, they don't know how to get into the mortgage arena, and how would you? Like, who do I call? Like, I mean, so no, it's actually been a fun surprise. Is that especially in kind of the CRM realm, like we're finalizing some deals with some CRM companies that are like, we want to sell to more mortgage companies, and so CRM's oddly our most popular category right now, and but there's a bunch of up and comers that nobody knows about. And so that's happened often. It's like we want to increase our presence in mortgage. We think we have a value proposition that we believe that we could add a lot of value. And it's like, awesome, well, let's get you listed and get you exploited. But that's actually been mostly my software client engagements in the past 2 years. That's been a lot of the work I've done as well, where it's been like, we believe we have a mortgage offering of some kind, and what story do we have to tell mortgage companies to get them excited about what we're doing? Because there's something to it. Like, there's definitely a way to discuss your value proposition to the banks where they go, oh, we need this. Like, this makes a lot of sense, or it's worth the investment. So no, that's a big part of the market for sure, and we need it to grow. I don't think people realize how small the technology space is in mortgage. It's for the size for the size of market we have, mortgage company wise, and how much technology is actually available. It's much smaller than you may think, and what that company looks like is also significantly different than what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I came out of. I've been on this side of the business now for 2 years, and I came from almost 30 years, in the primary origination space, right? And just sitting in my role today in a tech vendor, tech provider institution, my eyes are really opened up to how many players are really in and around mortgage. Now, it may be that they're doing other things other than mortgage, and mortgage happens to be a vertical that they focus on, but nonetheless, they're in that space, which kind of leads me to your platform. Yes, it's labeled with mortgage in there, but the platform itself probably could support other verticals down the road, if with a little bit of brand differentiation. Right? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we have to what we have to do is provide as much value, and if our go-to-market approach gets our traffic numbers to where we can exploit other categories, like real estate would be the next vertical. I mean, it's the same kind of route that anybody that wants to get out of mortgage goes. I mean, they're going to go to realtors next, then they're going to go to insurance, or maybe financial advisors. I mean, so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we own quite a bit of IP that we could pivot into that. Our product offerings and how we kind of conform into a SaaS model for the rest of the year is probably going to drive a lot of that. And then, yeah, I mean, with mortgage in the title, there's a bit of a glass ceiling. So it's important that we do diversify our product offering, our value proposition to not just technology companies, but to other customers, which would ultimately be mortgage banks.
With the traffic that it's coming to your site today, are you able to kind of ascertain whether the visitor is, I'll say, corporate, the lender versus loan officers, or do you have some visibility?
Not yet. I mean, like we're in a pretty big analytics sprint build right now, because it's going to be really important that our customers understand exactly what the traffic is doing, where they're showing up, how long they're staying there, what buttons they're engaging with, what they're looking at content-wise, what they're reading. And so those analytics are going to be pretty important to for folks to understand, why they should sign up at all, why they should pay any money to be listed on the site. And then, ultimately kind of who they are. I think that that's been the other interesting response is, they're not, because we're aggregating traffic for mortgage professionals, mortgage loan officers, advisors, brokers. The interesting kickback is like, well, how do you know if they're decision makers? And it's like, so if I built a site to aggregate only decision makers, I could only at the peak of that traffic get about 3,000 to 5,000 folks to show up to the site. So I would almost be at scale right now. Like that is, you have, and I think that's a misunderstanding of marketing as well, and the buyer cycle and the whole thing. When my time at Finance of America, I would have a branch come to me and go, hey, we're using X, Y, and Z. It's really cool. You should check it out. And all of a sudden, like, I mean, that's a pretty big lead for that software company, because I could roll that out into the enterprise, like that had that potential. And so I think that happens all the time. Actually a major bank I was talking to just to get in front of, they're like, this is not going to be useful for us. We have all these guys are trying to court us. I was like, think about the bank with 100 loan officers, and they're like, oh, dude, this is going to be huge. Like all of a sudden, So like the top 5 banks. Like if you're a software company, that's what you're doing. You're like, if we get Fairway, Guild, Finance of America, like whatever, right? The top 10, then we're it's life changing, revenue wise. And it's like, that's great that those guys are courting you, but there's like 5,000 lending institutions in America, that need help.
Yeah, and I think you're going about it the right way. I think there's decision makers are decision makers, and every company has them. Some companies are the smallest of nature. The influencer may also be the decision maker, right? But when you start getting into more enterprise type shops, oftentimes the decision makers making the decision because there's a whole bunch of influencers that are saying, you need to look at this. We think this is pretty cool, or better yet, I want this. And I think what you've built and are bringing, adding to is supporting, both the influencer who gets an opportunity to kind of figure out what's out there, and then also, now I'm getting into a little bit of a product ideation here for you. Maybe you've already thought this through. The term that we love to talk about now in the enterprise is tech stack, right? What's the lender's tech stack? How integrated is it? Have you thought at all about starting to tell a story by platform in terms of which ones are integrated? Because in my mind, I see this visualization that you could serve up that shows the user who's in there. Let's just say they're a total expert, CRM, and they're looking for some other, offshoot platforms to supplement that experience. I'm seeing how you could visualize quickly which platforms natively are integrated.
Well, that actual functionality, the filter functionality exists right now. So the 3 major things that banks will basically do a software search for is a filter functionality in the site. So we need some more folks to activate for it to really to get pretty sexy and fun.
Yeah.
So if your example, if you wanted to search all the companies that integrate with Total Expert, you could do that. If you wanted, or your point of sale, or your LOS, and then also some alternatives if that were to be applicable. So meaning that's where it will go. Like, so hey, I want to know everything that connects with core logic or something, right? So yeah, totally. It would be, we've definitely talked about building out user traffic accounts where they could actually build their dream stack, right? So that they could actually have an account and they actually build their own stack that inside a kind of a user experience. And so I think that would be kind of fun. It'd almost be it'd just be kind of a cool functionality, and there'd be probably some ways that we could report against it to the software companies. But yeah, there's a couple ideas like that definitely we've again, that's what you do. You sit around and you go, okay, how can I make this cooler for people? How can I get them to stay longer? How could I make this more useful and ultimately provide more value to the software company?
Yeah, another cool thing that you could think about is, so you got the tech stack question that comes up all the time. Where does this fit in my stack? And then right on the heels of that, the next question is, what does this do for my cost per loan, right? And so if you could start to build out almost a calculator that's dynamic. Now, you may have some idea of what costs are from each platform, but in that user, they could plug in what they think the costs are, and it would be a cool way to visualize kind of not only the stack and how it works together, but what does it cost all in when I think about all these pieces of technology serving.
That's interesting. So yeah, you're getting closer to kind of where we're going product wise. And the other thing is it involves reviews and performance. So that's kind of the last leg of it, where it's like, I am working with the quote unquote cool kid software company. It doesn't seem to be cutting it, but I wouldn't really know, how to measure that. Like that's a problem. Yeah. That's a problem that needs addressed. I think I don't remember who I talked to that gave me the coolest suggestion ever. But he asked if I could measure quality of integration, which I loved, because I remember just some of these places just don't have they shouldn't tell anybody they have an API. And I mean, and just the painstaking process of pulling developers out of other projects to go, okay, we need this to connect to this because it's connected to that, and and it's just being really bad. And then also I've had the experience where it's like, is that thing done? And they're like, yeah, it was the smoothest integration I've ever worked. And and I think that stuff needs to be talked about at a pretty high level, because it's the reason why projects don't start and stop is I don't believe I have time to actually deploy my people to get involved in this right now. We love what you're doing, but we're terrified it's going to be a big pain in the ass. So we're not going to do it at all. We're not going to do it at all. And it's So, I mean,
that happens a lot. Yeah. No, I think when I start thinking about the ultimate value to your consumer, in this case, the enterprise, the lender, the bank, having that all the things that we talked about up to this point validated by their peers is immeasurable. I mean, that's probably priceless right there. And I venture to guess that over time that could be a different way to upsell or have almost a premium service for.
Well, we can automate. We're going to be positioned to automate it and be a part of a lot of these conversations. So I mean, it's and I'm out of my mind, so it's not even an if, man. It's just when. I'm pretty passionate about providing this type of service, and I think that it's fun. The more you get into it, the more you learn, and the more little micro values you kind of pick up, and you're like, oh man, yeah, we could totally do that. That's we could totally and it's going to bring more transparency, good, bad, or indifferent, to the industry. I mean, like, and it should help banks of every size be able to find an appropriate vendor. And it's not even necessarily about technology and money. Sometimes they're just bad fits, or like, and that's tough to measure. Like, so
Right.
I think this stuff's pretty important. I mean, there's nothing worse than like bringing on a solution that you think is going to do that, and like, and you can't get them paid because they bill weird. Like, I mean, like, you never know what it's going to be that that just doesn't click, and like that stuff's important to kind of identify as early as possible. And not everybody is equipped to ask those questions, like, or they have the experience or acumen, to do that. So there's definitely a lot of service offerings that we can extend, and we're trying to figure out a way to do it at a really high level, because we'd love to serve 70% of the banking market in that capacity, and that's possible. So.
Yep, I love it. This has been fun, man. This has definitely helped me think about what you're up to and the platform. Let's close by having you just share a little bit about yourself to the audience.
I've been in the mortgage
get to know you
space
personally a little bit better.
I guess it's going on 8 years, and I started as a reverse mortgage call center loan officer at Finance of America Reverse, and before that, I had a couple of tech companies. I actually started a coupon sharing social media app, and so or technology, right, software, and the idea was like you would get if you shared a coupon, you would get even a better coupon on top of that. And and I raised capital. We went to market, and I spent it, and went out of business. It was pretty awesome. And those things in this space tend to be a badge of honor a little bit. It's like, man, I could go. I put everything into it, and we worked on it for about 3 years, and so it was a lot of fun. So another fun thing about me is if you look me up and you put music next to it, I actually was a signed musician in a different life. And so I play piano, I sing. I'm actually got quite a few songs published and whatnot. So it's actually coming back into my heart a little bit here recently. I'm starting to get back on my piano and play it. But yeah, man. So no, I mean, but this is this industry, and what we're doing is just. I think it's so evergreen. I think we're just getting warmed up. I think there's so much technological growth and so much innovation that needs to be implemented into the current way we do things. That it's just so much fun having these conversations and pushing this forward and trying to bring these things to life.
Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us on this this Friday, this early summer Friday. This was super cool to learn about what you guys are up to, and good luck with everything.
No, I really appreciate it. I had a blast.
Thanks for coming out.
I'm looking forward to the future, man. Yep.
Right on. Thank you. Okay.